So this project weirdly is born out of hearsay, and therefore it's sort of like gossip. So I wanted to make something where I could actually tell my gossip to all of you. So like obviously it's been like a very long research, and I say that it's gossip because mainly, obviously I'm like, okay, I'm looking or I'm researching an artist's career, but sometimes it's kind of difficult to separate the artist's career and life. And don't worry, for the ones that missed the first presentation, I can like all read to you, don't worry about it. How's that? Yeah, so I was wondering how I wanted to sort of synthesize my ideas, and so I think I'm going to start by doing a briefing of what led me on to start this research and do a little bit of, you know. So basically, everything started when, for context, I work I'm an art handler there, and I found this crate, which I will show you in a second, actually, once I get those gloves on. Yeah. There we go. I'm first. Okay, so 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 this is the crate, and I was very curious, and this is also the tag that was on it. So like the vibe, Untitled Lucky Street 2025. Not too sure why that was the year, but whatever. And it's a 2 by 2 by 2 feet crate, and I was very like, I don't know, I was just wondering what it was, so I went on the internet and I did my usual research, and then I found on Preview Web this video, this very enigmatic video, the black and white video, where you could see the artist talking, although it was very pixelated, so it was hard to tell, first of all, which era it was from and who was actually talking. I thought it was the artist, but I wasn't sure. And then I kept doing some digging, and I went on runme.org. So runme.org is like this, I think I mentioned it one time when we were talking about research and stuff like that. It's this sort of like online data bank where you can try and find codes and then run those codes, and it's just like a bunch of different codes. And I found one with his name, and it was sort of like an exclusive interview with him, which I found was like really weird because it was code, so it was like, who is this guy? And so I ran it, and I was actually able to talk with him, which was really cool. This is sort of like, I asked him what he looked like, and well, his first response was, why do you want to fuck me? And then his second response was this ASCII picture, which I thought was very interesting. And then, now this is when it gets really, really interesting. When I went back to my hometown, Gatineau, on Thanksgiving, so that was back in October, not the American one, the Canadian one, I decided to go to the National Archives, the National Gallery of Canada Archives, and boy did I find a lot. So I was able to find a bunch of Polaroids, some pictures that were actually printed on a receipt roll, which I thought was very interesting. And here's more. And I also found his studio notes, which I thought was very, very cool. Apparently he was in blowjob, which I never noticed. Maybe it's like a deep cut or like a director's cut, sorry. And so yeah, and then the phrase that really struck me was, what if I only existed on the internet, which is kind of like what he's doing right now. Obviously, I wasn't fully sure sort of like what he meant by that, and then I found this old, which I didn't put on the slides actually, but I found this old sort of like unfinished documentary that sort of talked about his life. So obviously there's a lot of holes in the thing, but I can try and resume everything. So basically he started his artistic career as a party clown by day and prostitute by night, which you can see a picture of. I'm gonna draw this strap, I think. Yeah. Obviously the pictures have been very, very degraded with, I'm assuming, time or just being passed around a lot. And so I was obviously like very interested, and what ties him back to in the first place is that I think he was funded by the patrons of because he was a very charismatic person, I'm assuming, and he, I don't know, they took a liking to him, and that's when I found also more of his studio notes also, where, yeah, you see it here. So, this is this love letter that was written to him. I am not sure who it was from, but he wrote it into his studio notes, which I'm assuming that, I don't want to make any assumptions, and obviously it's my job, but I'm assuming that he was in a love triangle with the patrons of the private collection that I work in, which I thought was like very fascinating. And yeah, and here's a screenshot of me chatting with him. He claims very often that he is an artist, a theoretician, oh, he made a typo. Oh. A curator and a writer, but he's also a teacher. So I also found that to be very interesting. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I want to keep this an open conversation, mainly because I don't have all the answers yet. I think that it is like, I do need sort of like your advice of what I could be researching next. But the other thing that really interested me was his sort of like relationship with art, and he sort of associated it kind of like Marina Abramovich to the athlete, but then he was also very much into the business of the art and making his work profitable. And that's when it gets tricky, is I thought that he was a sort of older artist, like of a different era, but he also knows what influencer is. So I was very surprised by that. So I'm sort of confused about the whole timeline of this artist and who actually this person is. And I'm just gonna end this whole thing with this score, because he did write quite a few scores. So it says, I breathe, I think, I love to party, I think of you, I want money, I strive to stay socially relevant, I dress in black, I admire public figures, I make jokes, I drink alcohol, I write and I read, and I am a figment of your imagination. And then he says, stay with me, and then dances to Cool Cat by Queen.